Life after Adobe, cutting the cord. Apple buys Pixelmator. What? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. Getting to the end of some fireside, actually. That smokiness is so good. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today's like a photo day. Photo tech day? Apple is purchasing Pixelmator. This is really big news, and it kind of gets into my whole Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series that I did 5 years ago when I broke free of Adobe 100% due to them moving into, instead of a single purchase type of thing where you would be able to buy and own the software and then upgrade whenever you wanted to, when they actually gave you a reason to upgrade, meaning that there is some type of innovation, not just iteration in their update, and you would purchase that update. Then they started this rental model where you never own anything. You pay in perpetuity, forever. You just keep paying them over and over and over. Not a fan of that, not a fan of that at all. So I said, you know what? That's the end. Created the Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series and cut them out completely, cold turkey. I'm a professional photographer, videographer, a DP, a director of photography. Trust me. That's not an easy thing to do, but I did it, and then I showed you how to do it. Matter of fact, I'll put a link right here. If you want to see more of that Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series, where I go through all of the different alternatives to Photoshop and Illustrator, and of course you have your Lightroom and all the rest. I go through all of them and a bunch of different alternatives. Once again, I'll put a link here. Don't click on it yet, but when you're done watching this video, check it out. Anyways, I want to read this article to you. It talks about what is going on over there with Apple and their decision to purchase Pixelmator, which is a very big deal. That's something similar to what happened not that long ago when we saw Canva ended up purchasing Serif or Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, Affinity Publisher, whatever. So Affinity was a really big one that I used as an alternative, but seeing that Canva bought it, I'm like, oh God, they're going to go into the same type of paying once again in perpetuity, this rental model where you never own anything. I'm like, oh God, here we go. But they didn't do that, which is a really good thing. And I hope they keep it that way. So before we get into this article, I just want to say that if you enjoy the content, throw the video a thumbs up. That is so helpful. I can't even explain it to you. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. If you have, thank you. I appreciate that. Click this little notification button over here so when I go live and when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. And if you want some of my ebooks that are free, go to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. And if you just want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there's a little thank you button that YouTube gave us right down here. Thank you, YouTube. Click on that, give $1 or $2 if you like. If not, that's perfectly fine. The video is still free, just the same. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. So now that the housekeeping is done, let's jump right into this article. I'll give you my commentary after or during. Sometimes I can't help myself. And then most importantly, I want to hear from you down below. All right, in the comment area, let me hear what your thoughts are. What do you think? Have you cut the cord from Adobe? Maybe you've been watching me for 5 years and you started watching me with the Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord. I wish I had my shirt on. I made a shirt. Matter of fact, maybe I'll put the shirt over here. You can see it. It's part of my merch. If you go over to JCristina.com, I put together a Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord shirt. So check it out, right? If you like it, pick it up. Anyways, let's get into this article. It starts out by saying Apple may soon own Pixelmator Pro and Pixelmator, a pair of popular photo editing apps. It's like a tongue twister. Yeah, for Mac as well as iPhone and iPad. The Lithuanian-based company behind the app, Pixelmator team, has, quote, signed an agreement to be acquired by Apple, according to their blog post on their website. Pixelmator team says, quote, there will be no material changes to its app at this time, big quotes, at this time, but promises exciting updates to come. Given Apple's substantial reworking of its native photo app, it wouldn't be surprising if we see the Pixelmator's more advanced editing features show up in macOS and iOS. That would be especially nice for anyone that stores their raw photos with the company, as processing them in Photos has historically been a subpar experience. Absolutely. Even if that doesn't come to pass, it does mean that a company competing with industry giant Adobe Photoshop now has a backing of an even larger corporation, Apple. Massive. Pixelmator's blog post says that the acquisition is, quote, subject to regulatory approval, and Apple is currently facing a lot of pressure from regulators worldwide, especially in the EU or the European Union. However, this acquisition doesn't seem too contentious as some of the other we have seen in the tech space, such as NVIDIA's attempt to take over ARM and Microsoft's purchase of the gaming giant Activision Blizzard. That was big. This isn't the first photo editing suite to be snapped up by a larger or massive corporation like Apple. Earlier this year, Canva purchased Affinity, the company behind the popular Photoshop competitor Affinity Photo, and designer and of course publisher. Affinity is a fantastic alternative. And matter of fact, I recommended them for a long time, and I think I will continue to recommend them. Not as much for Linux users as of right now because they haven't come out with a Linux-based version of Affinity product. Hopefully they do in the not so distant future. So what does all this mean for the industry? Well, the news of Apple's acquiring Pixelmator team, the developers behind Pixelmator Pro and Pixelmator, is a significant development in the photo editing software industry. Facts. The move positions Apple to directly integrate Pixelmator's advanced features into its ecosystem, potentially enhancing the capabilities of the native photo app in Mac OS and iOS. I don't think they're going to do that, guys. I think they'll make a separate program or rename it or something because people don't like photos. The app itself, I don't know. They could, but I think that they will be better served if they made a separate program and use all of this back end. That's just my thoughts. We'll see what they do. This could make Apple's software a more formidable competitor to Adobe. It would. Especially given that Adobe's subscription model that some users find restrictive compared to Pixelmator's one-time payment approach. The exact same thing with Serif or Affinity. You purchase the software one time, and if you want to upgrade, you can. If you don't want to upgrade, you don't have to. Period. It is a one-time purchase. What that means is, instead of the corporation like Adobe that can sit on their laurels and do absolutely nothing and just simply iterate instead of innovate, all right? These companies have to innovate because they have to somehow convince you to upgrade. That gives us better, much better software. My personal opinion. What say you down below? I would love to hear your thoughts. The acquisition has also raised curiosity about whether Apple will incorporate Pixelmator's tools like its machine learning-driven editing and raw file processing directly into macOS or iOS updates. Might happen. For Adobe, which has long dominated the photo editing market, this acquisition signals a potential shift in user loyalty. Absolutely, especially among casual and mid-level users who may prefer a simpler, fully integrated option over Adobe's high-powered but more complex and expensive Photoshop suite. As Apple fine-tunes these features, Adobe may face growing competition from a seamlessly integrated solution that appeals to Apple's massive user base. This acquisition also mirrors other recent market moves, like Canva's purchase of Affinity earlier this year, which indicates increasing consolidation in the photo editing space. Absolutely, including NLEs, non-linear editors, in the video editing space with DaVinci Resolve, for example. As more tech players invest in accessible, high-quality editing tools, Adobe could find itself pressured into innovate or risk losing market share to new rivals backed by equally powerful corporations. Exactly what I just said. If they just continue to iterate, they will fail. They need to innovate. That is, once again, the difference between something that you just simply buy and that is it, and then they have to somehow convince you to upgrade. If they don't convince you, you don't upgrade. That would be awesome. Absolutely awesome. This kind of industry shift could give users more robust, subscription-free editing options within Apple's ecosphere, potentially sparking changes in pricing and access across the photo editing market. 100% agreed. I think that this is fantastic. I really do. I think that Adobe needs to be pressured. When I was coming up and I was in school, right? I went to 3 different colleges. One of the colleges was the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, went for commercial art, advertising, design, video production. And what all of the instructors would say, all of the professors, is if you didn't learn the Adobe suite, you could not be a professional. And I used to think about it. I'm like, God, there's so many other different packages out there. Why do we have to go? Of course, what did we do? We went with Adobe because the professors said that we had to. And all of the papers, all of the work, any of the assignments had to be on Adobe. So we did that. But once I got into the industry, there was a lot of other alternatives, not necessarily Adobe, but Adobe did, I would say, take about 85% of the market. They just simply did. Everyone used it. Why? Because the kids coming out of school wanted it. And then, of course, the corporations started using it. And then Adobe was basically prolific. It was absolutely everywhere, ubiquitous. It didn't matter where you go, you had to know Adobe. Well, once they went into that whole, let's say, rental thing, I said, you know what, I am done with this. I am done with it. I broke free 5 years ago, and I have not had an Adobe piece of software on any of my computers ever since. And now I've moved from Windows to Linux. It is well over 100 days now. My Windows remains right here. I'm currently using Linux. No one knows the difference because all of my work can be done in Linux and not in Windows. It's not a problem. Now, if you use Mac OS, that's fantastic. Break away from Windows completely. I actually did a Life After Windows Cutting the Cord Series 2. Maybe I'll put a link to that over there. Check that out. I like alternatives. I like creatives to have alternatives to create and not be beholden to any specific corporation. And that is the problem with Adobe. That is the gripe that I've always had with them. So when we see Pixelmator or Affinity Photo, Designer, so on and so forth, DaVinci Resolve, these are all pieces of software that are either free or you could just one-time purchase them. And then you can keep them as long as you want. And once again, if you want to upgrade, you can. If you don't want to upgrade, whatever, I'm okay with it. The subscription model that Adobe has implemented is really starting to push people away, even though it's not that expensive. But what ends up happening is you're paying, let's say $10, $20 every single month. The 1 year goes by, now you're out, let's say $240. The next year goes by, now you're out $480. The next year, you see what I'm saying? And it continues in perpetuity like that. And then like 10 years goes by and you're like, what the hell happened? I just gave Adobe like $5-6 grand. What is that? It is a major problem. So this is encouraging. I think it encourages creators across all platforms to consider alternatives. That has been my goal with creating the Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series and the Life After Windows Cutting the Cord series. Giving creatives the ability to look at other alternatives and say, you know what, I can use this. This will work for my specific task. Now, there's going to be tasks out there that you absolutely have to use Adobe. Maybe you work for a company that requires it. They mandate it. Well, you're kind of screwed. But if not, and you're working for yourself or you're working for a company that gives you the leeway to use other pieces of software because they don't care how you get from point A to point B, as long as you get to point B, however you did it, they don't care. They just want that project done. And at that point, you can use alternatives. Now, it doesn't matter if the alternatives are photo editing alternatives, raw editing alternatives, video production alternatives, graphic design alternatives. There is a ton. Once again, I put together that playlist. Check it out. There are a lot of alternatives that are very, very powerful. I think that this is not only going to be cost effective for people, it's just simply liberating, in my personal opinion. So if you're an Apple guy or an Apple gal, congratulations. This purchase of Pixelmator is going to be good for you in the long run. You're not going to see it right away, but you're going to see it trickle in to either a new piece of software that you're going to be able to use or into their Photos app. I'm not sure how they'll do it. Once again, I think that they should make a new app. All right, but that's my personal opinion. So what say you? Down below, let me hear your thoughts. What do you think about all this? Are you someone that broke free of Adobe? Let me know about it. When did that happen? And why did it happen? If you're someone that broke free of Windows and now you're using Mac OS or you're possibly even using Linux, tell me about it down below. I would love to hear from you. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said before, throw it a thumbs up. That's very helpful. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools that I've invented over the many years, and my merch and my shirts and my tees and my books and everything else. Pick something up. Help support me and my family. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, stay Adobe free. And we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.